All right, Mike Rodden joins me from Number Fire Golf. He has a few articles up there about the PGA Championship. I don't know if you have any more coming out this week or not, Mike. Do you have any?
Yeah, so on Monday morning I posted the course
Mhm,
primer, which is
mhm,
basically a uh, preview of what to expect at Bethpage Park, what key stats, what the grass types
mhm,
are, the par and the length and things like that, and kind of what key stats are going to be important.
mhm.
And then on Monday morning I post, or I'm sorry, on Tuesday morning I get up the DraftKings picks. So just based into tiers of high, mid, low, and kind of bargain basement pricing for
Yep,
what guys I think are good plays on DraftKings specifically for DFS.
yep.
And then this week I have to finish it tonight after we wrap up here,
Okay.
posting tomorrow, which will be a betting guide to the specials and props. Brandon Gadula, one of the editors over there, posted the outright betting guide today.
Yep.
So I'll look at the top fives, top tens. So you post a good value there relative to their overall odds, and then some of the special stuff, which is can be really fun, like top Australian, top Asian, top. They got all kinds of stuff out there
Yeah.
now, and even a couple. Like to get some of those like top 20 made cut parlays
Mhm.
and really fix in 5 or 10 guys that you can watch. And even if you miss your outright bets, then as it gets closer towards the finish and guys charging on Sunday, you still have still live for a top 20. So FanDuel Sportsbook's offering those bets now, which is nice because up until probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, we didn't really see too many top fives and tens
Mhm.
and section groups and things like that that they're offering now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Definitely. Um, So look for that. I posted his link to his page in the chat there, but and if you're watching this later, it'll be linked as well. So make sure to check out the latest post when that comes up live too. But go back and look at the other stuff too. It's good stuff. So make sure you're reading that. The golf's Mike and Brandon do a really good job of just covering every tournament that comes through. So definitely check that out. All right. So now that we've talked course, we've talked a little bit about the weather. Let's just get into some of the players, and we have to start with Tiger. So obviously he's coming off the Masters win. Haven't seen him in action since then. He is the fourth most expensive golfer on FanDuel. He is the most expensive golfer on DraftKings. He's tied with Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson on the FanDuel Sportsbook in odds. And he also has a brand new wrongful death lawsuit that names him in the case. So,
Wait, what?
yeah. If you hadn't heard this, I just saw this a little bit earlier today. One of his former workers at his restaurant in Florida, uh, got into an accident after drinking at the restaurant, which ultimately was a fatal accident. And so
Oh my
his
God.
that person's family is has filed a wrongful death lawsuit, and in that lawsuit they have named Tiger Woods and his girlfriend, who is the manager of the restaurant, as well. If you ask me, it's going to be hard that anything's going to really hold up from that, but nevertheless, that is another piece of drama that is there
Yeah.
hovering now. And so, with all that said, and I just broke that on Mike
All
there
right.
too. What do you think Tiger's going to do to follow up the Masters win?
Well, I mean, you already guaranteed a victory with your call that the
Yeah, that's
last
right.
time that it was held in May, the Masters. So, I mean, there's really
Yeah,
nothing else to.
that's it.
uh, yeah, it's funny. I would think going into this season, I was kind of thinking of, wait, what do I think about Tiger for the
Hmm.
year and going forward? Because obviously, watching him, I mean, my most vivid memory of the PGA Championship was watching Ye Yang chase
Oh,
him down and beat him in the PGA Championship. That was when it was back when it was held in August.
yeah,
But
right.
I remember just being like automatic, Tiger's going to win, no doubt about it. That was the first time I remember really feeling like, oh wait, he sometimes doesn't win.
Hmm.
And to see somebody like Ye Yang, who I think has probably had like maybe 5 finishes better than 50th since then, it seems like just like such a weird event for
Right.
it sticks out of my brain so much. I remember being down the shore and watching it, like unbelievable with my friends.
Yeah.
But the for this week, I think, like I said, going into the season, I didn't think that he would have much of a shot at Augusta or Bethpage just because of the length.
Hmm.
One of his biggest weaknesses is driving the ball off the tee these days. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, coming at the Masters, there's not a lot of rough to deal with, so it's just that pine straw from the side, and you have to
Hmm.
come in with those really long irons, but you usually
Right.
have a decent lie.
Yeah.
So makes sense. That's kind of what his strength is now in the approach game, even if his weakness is off the tee.
Hmm.
But if he can still put it out there, it's just a matter of the accuracy. One of my key stats on the week for my articles was total driving, which takes into account both accuracy and distance. And it's
Right.
just not something that Tiger's really ever been too good at because he just falls behind in the accuracy.
Yeah.
So like
Right.
last year, he had obviously a pretty good year in as far as finishes go, and he was top 15 almost every event that he played. He was still 127th in driving accuracy.
Yeah.
So even though he was 32nd off the tee, he was 63rd in total driving for the 2018 season. So
Wow.
you think of somebody that's going to be in contention. I need somebody who can keep it, hit it long enough to give themselves a good look, but also keep it in the fairway.
Right.
So obviously, it's like you know, guess pressure luck if you're going against Tiger, and you get sort of the emotional hedge when you're watching it because you get so excited watching him to see him achieve what he did at the Masters.
Yeah.
But I think as the highest price guy on DraftKings, I will be happy to pay $200 less for Dustin Johnson or $300 less for Rory McIlroy, who are two of the biggest hitters on tour.
Yeah.
Uh, I just I remember thinking that like I just basically can't play Tiger ever again because he's going to be so owned. And then they put him as the highest priced guy, and I was like, I don't think I'll play him because he's the highest priced guy now, as opposed
Yeah.
to he's still going to get some ownership and he's still going to get, probably have a decent finish. But I just think that DJ and Rory and some of the guys right below him are probably just a little bit better suited to win the event in this particular layout at Bethpage. Even though Tiger did win in 2002 at Bethpage, obviously that was a long time ago
Yeah. It was a
for
long time ago.
information.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I noticed that my friends that always seem to hop on the Tiger bandwagon are not playing him at all this week. So uh, how things have changed, I guess. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, it's. I think the site where you don't even have to worry about it is FanDuel, where they're going to refund the member your entry fee if he wins. They did that for the
right,
Masters, and I'm sure they
right,
must have some sort of insurance for it because they had to take a bath like $1 million in entry fees
right. Yeah.
to give back. But no, it
Oh man,
definitely.
that's
I
crazy.
didn't have Tiger in. I had him in one lineup in the Masters, and it wasn't anything close to the right lineup.
Yeah.
And this week, it's just hard to see why, if I could pick him or DJ, I would pick Tiger at a course of this length, taking out some of
All
the
right.
emotional parts of it.
Right. Very true. Very true. You mentioned the guys priced right around him. I'd like to move on to Brooks Koepka, who is a three-time major winner, and I know there's probably a lot of people that hate even saying that. As there seems to be a lot of people that don't necessarily like Brooks, but he steps up to the plate when it's a big tournament, and he just played well on a rain-soaked Trinity Forest course. He finished sixth there. Um, I think in accuracy was it? I can't remember, but he was or sixth in strokes gained tee to green on that course at Trinity Forest, which was pretty wet, which is what we assume Bethpage will be as well. So, what do you think about Brooks? Are you playing any Brooks this week?
I think that I would definitely will
Mm-hmm.
because he is somebody who has shown a propensity to actually like win.
Yeah.
That's kind of like it seems silly to say, but you look at guys like Justin Rose, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas. They're some of they've all been ranked number one in the world at some point. Justin Thomas isn't playing this week with the
Right.
wrist injury,
Right.
but you think of those guys and you're like, wow, those are some of the best players in the world. Kepka has as many major wins as all three of them combined,
Yeah.
which because they only have one.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing him as anything other than the highest priced guy at an event where he has plenty of distance that he's going to need, and he has shown an ability to actually close the door
Mm-hmm.
recently. McIlroy and guys and Tiger obviously have plenty of major wins in their careers, but Koepka is the guy who's basically been dominating these events. Another second place. He was really just a missed putt from Tiger Woods or a made putt from him from going to a playoff.
Right.
So there was, I think that Koepka is somebody who I last year after what he did at the U.S. Open basically opened my eyes to, like, I think that this guy's A game might just be better than anybody else's
Yeah.
to win the U.S. Open at Shinnecock at +1 or even or whatever he was, and to win the year before at -18, like in like a crazy, to be able to win both of those styles of U.S. Opens,
Right.
it really is hard to argue that his best isn't better than anybody's. He just doesn't do it consistently enough in the little tournaments across the season to match up from a stats perspective with DJ and Rory. And ultimately, I am a little bit too much of a stat head and kind of have to eliminate that part of my brain when I see that DJ and Rory are number one and two and pretty much everything, and Koepka's like 30th,
Yeah.
and he's in first place at the end of the week. So, I mean, I think Brooks is a great play in a tournament where says something like the DraftKings Millionaire Maker, where you have to pick the winner. Every guy in your lineup
Right.
has to have a chance to win,
Yeah.
and it's hard to argue that anybody has more win equity in a major right now than Brooks Koepka, and he's not even the highest priced guy. So
Right.
it's hard to argue against him and hard to fade him.
Yeah. I couldn't have said that better myself. I think it's hard to ignore Brooks Koepka in any of these major tournaments anymore. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, that's the pedigree he's shown to have. I think he was shown making some weird trick shot with a frisbee on Sports Center this morning. So apparently he's got some other weird skills too. I don't know. Anyway, all right, let's go a little bit further off the radar as far as maybe not some of the bigger names. We're going to bring up at least one more in this discussion, but let's talk about Ian Poulter. This is a guy last year who it felt like he didn't care anymore. Um, he sold off his clothing line, right? So he got rid of that, and then he just wasn't playing well. Like there was concerns he might even potentially lose his PGA card at one point in
yeah,
time. But yet here he is playing really well. He's seventh in ball striking, which is crazy to me. In 2009 at the U.S. Open at Bethpage, he was T18 that year, so he had a pretty good finish then too. What are we doing with Ian Poulter?
So Poulter is somebody who, when I'm trying to think, like I said, about like who's going to win the event,
Yeah,
Poulter, like you said, on the cusp of losing his tour card, and a lot of that's because he was playing plenty over on the European
yeah,
side. It's not like he was terrible, but he just wasn't playing enough on the PGA side and getting enough
right,
good results in America
right,
to justify the card. So then he comes out, wins the Shell Open, makes
mm-hmm,
his way into the Masters, and then he's basically been good, all the way through the Ryder Cup.
right,
Was pretty remarkable last year. He had a great stretch this year over in Europe, but the finishes on the PGA Tour just really haven't been too exciting over the last, probably this season. I think he had a couple decent finishes, but really nothing to bringing up his card here for the PGA events. Um, just somebody that, like, he's going to play a consistent game, probably going to make the cut. I like him for cash games for sure
okay,
at 7,600 on DraftKings. So
yeah,
he actually, yeah, so he was 12th at the Masters. He had a nice one, and then RBC Heritage. I honestly, he came in 10th there. Just have like no idea what to make of that event, because it was one. It was pouring rain.
yeah,
Johnson was first going into Saturday and going into Sunday, and then shot 77 and finished like way back as everybody in the world passed him.
yeah,
So it's just like a, CT Pan gets the win,
all right,
like a weird mix of guys that have been there. So he's made every cut so far this year. He has another top five at WGC Mexico which is another kind of like, who the hell knows what to make of that course.
mm-hmm,
Um, Ultimately, he's not long enough off the tee, and I just don't know if he has that equity to actually win the event for me to go with him. And the other thing that's sort of, get your nationalist style going. The I hate him for what he did in the Ryder Cup.
right,
He ripped our hearts out,
he did,
and
no,
in each of the four events that have been played at Bethpage, an American has won every time.
mm-hmm.
So we'll cross. I'll play plenty of Europeans and Australians, but I'll use that to cross Poulter off the list.
Yeah, okay, there you go, there you go. There's your definitely a
Expert
nationalist thing.
analysis.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, that's good. I like that though. That's a good stat. It's one of those stats that you got to go in the weeds for sometimes, but it makes a lot of sense. So,
Yeah.
all right. So one of my buddies that plays a lot relies extremely heavily on course history, which I tell him he needs to stop that, but he doesn't listen to me. So, um, anyway, one guy that comes across with good course history is Ryan Moore, of all people.
Yeah,
Uh, do we even consider Ryan Moore in our lineups?
I think so. I mean,
Yeah,
I think Moore is somebody whose game is really bent around tee to green and specifically ball striking.
yeah,
Well, strokes gained ball striking in addition to total driving was one of my key stats this week. Like you said, the finishes are there. He was 10th at the 2009 U.S. Open, 24th at the 2012 Barclays,
mm-hmm.
and then tied for seventh at the 2016 Barclays. So
Yeah,
that's three times that he's played there, two top tens, and another one was T24. So uh, he is a different guy than he was in 2009 and 2012.
yeah, yeah,
Um, his life is probably very different, but Moore has also actually had some of those high end finishes that we want.
mm-hmm.
He had a couple good finishes in the swing season. He actually came in second at the Safeway, and then he came in third at the Valero Texas Open. So he's sort of has those events where he can disappear and he's just like he's in 48th and like you never heard from him. Probably watched Golf Channel and NBC 4 days straight and you didn't see one Ryan Moore shot.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
but then there's those events that he really nails it from a strokes approach perspective. Back at the Valero Texas Open, he was 5.7 strokes gained on approach, 5.6 with the putter, and then at the Safeway, 5.9 with the putter.
Mm-hmm.
So you wonder what guys can do if they have the ability to really reach that top tier finish. And for whatever reason, Moore is somebody who is either kind of a ghost, but when he gets a hot putter, he's right up at the top. So with the course history, he's only 7,400. He's one of those guys that probably going to be a little popular this week, given that
Yeah,
course history
right.
and his ball striking pedigree. But I would rather play him over Poulter, for $200 cheaper. That's one of those guys, and probably a couple others in that 74 to $7,800 range that I would rather play over Poulter, even if they're going to be more popular, just because I think that they bring more to the table from a ceiling perspective, even
Right.
if their floor is maybe a little bit lower than Poulter's.
Yeah. I think some places have him like 125 to 1 odds, so not the greatest, but could be a nice addition on the back end if you still have the winner in your lineup somewhere, potentially.
Yeah, and he's definitely as I'm going through my breakouts for my article for tonight of who might be a good top 20 play, top 30 play.
Yeah.
Just looking at his top 20 finish odds, let me pull them up right now for Moore.
Mm-hmm.
He is way down there.
Yeah.
It's
Top
funny. So
20.
he's 5-1 for a top 20, which considering he's gotten that two out of three times, put $20 on it, win $100. Like that's,
Yeah, that's not bad.
I think he's a decent enough play that's somebody that I would probably consider more in that range than the outright winner. But definitely, I think in play on DraftKings just because of his ability to strike the ball and when the putter gets hot, really shoot up the leaderboard.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I saw a lineup with Ryan Moore in it today. It didn't look horrible. So who knows? All right. Well, I said we talk about one other big name, and that's Sergio Garcia. I think there might not be a ton of people searching for him to put him on their DK lineup or their FanDuel lineup, whatever it may be. But he's pretty low on DK. I believe you even had him in on your one article. He's like a budget option basically at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that whatever algorithm they were using to come up with the pricing really sold Sergio short. He's only
Mm,
7,900 on DraftKings.
yeah.
And you mentioned Ryan Moore's course history. Sergio is the only man with three top tens at Bethpage Black. He
Right.
was top 10 in both the 2002 and 2009 US Opens, and then he was T3 at the 2012 Barclays. Um, he ended up skipping the 2016 version, as a lot of these guys do for the first leg of
Right.
the FedEx Cup playoffs.
Right.
But Sergio's history is as good as anybody's. Mickelson has two runner-ups, and then a T13. He's right up there as well. But Sergio, these guys that have done it for 20 years now, is pretty amazing to see them still competing. And obviously, Phil got a win earlier this year. Sergio played great overseas and has kind of been up and down here, but he did have a fourth place finish at the Wells Fargo his last time out. So that was another long course where you think you really have to be solid off the tee, and Sergio played great. So he's definitely in play.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited to see as I'm like kind of like prepping for my article. I started with uh, the odds, and
Mm-hmm.
I saw that Sergio's 39 to 1. So I'm thinking like Finau's 40 to 1, and he's 8,800. Sergio's 39 to 1, and he's 7,900. It doesn't make any sense that he's that much lower priced than guys like DeChambeau and Finau, who he has better odds than.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the case, and that's probably going to make his ownership on DraftKings kind of almost to the point where I'm happy with his Masters finish where he missed the cut, and maybe in cash games, but I'll probably stay away in tournaments just because his ownership at those Vegas odds is going to be like out of control, and I'll probably get burned by him. Sergio is one of those guys who's just impossible to get right. You play him and he's misses like 3 foot putts for par,
Right.
and then breaks his club, and then you fade him and he's like knocking it to 10 feet and drilling the putts every time. So I'll probably be wrong with whatever I ultimately decide with Sergio.
Yeah. Who knows? At least he's an interesting character, right?
No,
So,
for sure.
all right. A couple other guys I want to talk about before we let you just kind of tell us who else we need to look at. But Corey Connors, he got his first win at the Valero Texas Open a few weeks ago. His wife Mallory became a star because they had a camera like locked on her face every time he would make a birdie on the back nine. So um, and honestly, he's been playing pretty well. So what do we do with Corey Connors?
Yeah, Connors is somebody. It's funny. You see, like you mentioned, you saw his wife who was just hilarious watching it. Always had a drink in her hand, like
Yeah.
totally like my kind of girl, just like shocked. I mean, it had
Yeah.
to be offensive to him at
Yeah.
some point. Like he's making putts,
Yeah.
and I mean, I was watching that week as well, and I had Corey in a couple DK lineups, and he's just one of those guys that you like cross your fingers and hope for a top 25. He
Yeah.
actually had qualified his way into the Valero Open that Monday,
Yeah.
and came out and won the damn thing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of amazing and like you said, funny to see. I'm trying to imagine the things that I would do that my wife would be like overly impressed about. That I would then she'd be like oh yeah, like Mike always like takes the trash out and he does this. But then like one morning I came down and he had like made brownies for me and she's like lit up with this
That's
thing
what.
like, well, I mean, why are you
What?
so you're not giving me a lot of credit or something like that.
Yeah.
But he it was making $1 million, so I think she was probably happy with however he was doing it.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Uh, and he's another one like we've touched on. He's got one, two, three, four, five, six. He's got like 8 missed cuts since the swing season, 9 missed cuts since the beginning, basically since the Safeway, which is the first event in the
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
But he also has a win, a second, and a third in that span. He is the sort of guy that you want to play in your GPP contest, where he does have a chance to actually go out and finish in the top 10 at $6,800 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
And yeah, he might miss the cut, but he's not going to kill you if he finishes 40th and he actually has a chance to finish fifth. It's one of those, if you can play him or play somebody like Charles Howell, who was another guy I know you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Yep.
Like Howell has never finished better than I think 19th in a major,
Right.
and it's like 10 years. So he got a win this year, but he was sort of like has a reputation as somebody that just doesn't actually finish the job. He might make a lot of cuts and he's going to play okay and get a lot of pars, but he's not going to be at the top of the leaderboard at the end of the week, which I want to have every guy in my lineups to be live. And there's going to be a lot of those lineups that I have to go pretty balanced in order to accomplish that. But Connors is definitely somebody who is going to find his way in there just because of the value that he brings with actually winning a tournament when his game is on fire, as he showed at the Valero.
Yeah. So you mentioned Charles Howe. I mean, he had a withdrawal, lots of miscuts recently, but he fits the course. So we're not even considering him at all in this. I assume.
It, I like the idea of Charles Howe.
Yeah.
He is long enough off the tee for sure. A good player on Poano greens, which is what Bethpage has. If you look at the results at the beginning of the year out west, a lot of those courses in Arizona and California have POA, and he played great out there. That was where his beginning of the season was kind of like he was finishing in the top 15 almost every week.
Hmm.
But he's coming off two missed cuts in a row, so the form has taken a turn for the worse. And just looking at his previous PGA finishes, which I think is kind of we can look at all the majors, but I do think that looking at just the PGA for what type of course and what type of event the PGA of America sets up for these guys, Hal has just not been very good at this type of course. So he has in his last he missed 2016, but 2018 71st, 2017 73rd, 2015 65th, and then three straight missed cuts. So he's like nowhere close at this particular event.
Hmm.
And then the other majors are kind of in the same boat. So the Open, two straight missed cuts. U.S. Open, he had 25th in 2018, but then a missed cut. Like it's just not those high end finishes that you want. So I know he seems to fit very well. I just don't know if he has the juice to really go up against the big guys and get to the top of the leaderboard, which I need to. In a field like, say, the Millionaire Maker, where there's over 120,000 entrants, I need somebody who is going to be like your whole lineup basically needs to be in the top 10. And
Yeah.
I just don't know of how, not that he can't be useful in other contests to fill out lineups, but in that type of contest, in those huge field tournaments, it's like kind of what's the point to getting a T35 and a solid play if he's not actually live to win the event.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, yeah, those are just some guys that sparked my interest this time around. I'm going to let you talk about who else we need to potentially fade and who's sparking your interest as well. Just a note: the folks at Fanshare Sports who kind of track buzz level on golfers and other things, they have Bubba Watson, Scott Piercy, and Matt Wallace ranking up a little bit today. Alexander Noren and Tyrell Hatton, not
Hmm.
Americans, uh,
Yeah.
are
No,
ranking down on that. So I mean, yeah, maybe there is some narrative there for sure. But do any of those guys or whoever else? I know you have one particular fade in mind that you told me about already.
yeah, I just can't do it with Spieth. I lived and died with him last year as he was kind of going into this
Mm-hmm.
downswing,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't know what else we can expect from this guy. He hasn't had a high enough. He's basically played well at the Masters and the Open Championship last year, and then he just hasn't played well anywhere else. And he's 8,600.
Mm-hmm.
He's $100 less than Matt Kuchar. Kuchar's been basically playing like the golf of his life, and he's
Yeah.
been a pro for a million years at this point. But Spieth's finish at the Masters was 21st.
Mm-hmm.
He was 12th at the PGA last year, ninth at the U.S. Open, and then he doesn't have any other finishes inside. As the Dell Championship, he was 12th in a small field, and then like every other finish is outside the top 30. Like he's nowhere close. So
Yeah.
how can I trust that he's going to one? He's not a distance guy. He's gonna struggle at a course where everybody's out bombing him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the putter's not working, he gained 6 strokes putting last week and still finished 29th. He lost strokes in every other facet of the game at the Byron Nelson. So Spieth is just somebody I can't get there with. Um, Another guy. It's interesting that you mentioned that Bubba is getting a little pub on Fanshare Sports. I didn't see that coming, and he was definitely
Yeah.
somebody that piqued my interest. He has a top 15 here in I think the 2016 Barclays, and he certainly has the distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never an issue with Bubba to bomb it out there, and another guy who when he's on, he's winning. Like
Right.
he's the kind of guy and he can be 4 strokes back going into Sunday, and he has that lightning round and just ends up taking the entire tournament down. So he's somebody that really I thought would be a little sneaky, and now you're telling me that, and he's at $8,000, which you're
Yeah.
right bracketed around Mickelson's 8,000 and Sergio are 7,900, the course history gods,
Yeah.
and and Bubba was somebody I really thought would be kind of sneaky, and I think he still will be. Sometimes that Fanshare Sports, especially earlier in the week,
Yeah.
people click on guys that they think will be sneaky, but then everybody's like, "Oh, well, Bubba's not consistent enough for me to play him. He's going to be owned." So then it actually works the other way, where people
Right.
use sites like Fanshare Sports to estimate ownership, and then they kind of like talk themselves out of it based on some of the data.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but so Bubba's definitely somebody Somebody who really pops for me as an option for total driving specifically is Keegan Bradley.
Okay.
And if you recall, he got that win at the BMW
Mm-hmm.
Championship last year in the FedEx playoffs, where it was pouring the entire time. Uh,
Yeah.
so, like, if that's what the conditions are going to be like, if it's going to be soft, he can bomb it out there. He's got great driving accuracy and distance. He was first in total driving in 2016 and 17. He's been top 12 in that stat basically the last 6 years in a row. Um, and he has a PGA championship. Like he actually has done it at a major. Now that was when he was putting with the gimmick putter that they've outlawed since then. But he really just showed back in the fall that he can win in a strong field against the top competition in these types of conditions. And at just $7,200, I think Keegan is somebody who people seem to. He's sort of like a punchline. You know that Pat Mayo has his the full
Yeah.
Keegan is a
Yeah.
first round leader and then miscut. Uh, he has a wide range of outcomes, but isn't that what we're looking for when we're making GPP lineups?
Right.
So I think if Keegan's somewhat more consistent than people think with made cuts. He's only really missed one or two in the last like 7 months,
Mm-hmm.
but he's somebody that if he's going to be lower owned, I really really like him. And even if he's not, I'm happy to put my money on Keegan and let everybody else talk themselves into the Lucas Bjerregaard and the guys that have never done anything on the PGA Tour
Mm-hmm.
except like do well in the match play.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see just to put my money on Keegan.
There you go. Well, the 101st PGA Championship tees off at 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. Rob Laberitz, whoever that is among those in the first group. I don't know. Scott Piercy, Brian Gay, Ben Cook, Bo Hoster, and JJ Spawn, and the other folks. They'll be teeing off on the first and 10th, and then everyone will watch their Millie Maker lineups with much concern, I guess, immediately going forward. But Mike, I appreciate it again. Thanks for coming back on, and I know having this major pop up made it a lot easier to get your opinions. Obviously, watch Mike's username go up past you on the Millie Maker too this weekend because he's coming for
Yes.
you, right? Yeah, very good.
Yeah, that'll be a big pub for your show. Love the new logo, by the way.
Oh,
That'll
thanks.
it'll be we'll be blasting through the Twitcher sphere
Yeah, there you go.
uh, once they see my name next to it eventually.
Your next paycheck from Number Fire will be really nice if you start winning Millie Makers. So anyway, yeah, all right. Well, enjoy the tournament. We'll get just probably just the player part of this interview out on YouTube as fast as I can, hopefully. So if you didn't see it here, and then like I said, Mike's information's in the chat. But if you're seeing this elsewhere, Mike will be linked, and obviously it's at Mike underscore Rodden on Twitter. You can find him there. So thanks again, Mike, and hopefully we'll do this again a little bit sooner than what we did this time around.
Yeah, definitely
Sound good?
appreciate it, Doug. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Have a good night and have fun finishing that last post for the week.
You got it. Check it out on number five. Thanks,
There
man.
you go. See ya.
Bye.
All right. Bye. All right. All right. There you go. There's Mike for you. Always good. Uh, always fun to have him on. Knows his stuff for sure. And so we'll try to get this out as soon as we can. Um, appreciate him coming on as well. Appreciate anybody that watches this now, then later, whatever it may be. We'll try to get this out as soon as we can so it still has a timeliness to it. Make sure to check out Mike's and Brandon's stuff on Number Fire Golf. It's numberfire.com/golf, or you just go to the main page. And of course, I'm on there doing soccer stuff. But we're pretty much wrapped up. There'll be some more information soccer-wise regarding the Champions League final coming up here in the very beginning of June. So thanks again to Mike. Thanks to the good folks at Number Fire.